Hi everyone, so we're going to look at some history. So we're going to look at some Edexcel GCSE early Elizabethan England, and the topic we're going to have a look at is education and leisure in Elizabeth's reign. So let's go. So Elizabethan theatre. William Shakespeare was the leading playwright of the Elizabethan age. He produced many new plays each year which were performed at the Globe Theatre in London, which is still there today. So acting was a male-only profession, which meant that if there were any female characters in a play, males would also play these. So actors such as Richard Burbage were particularly famous, and they performed roles many times over. Theatre troupes such as Shakespeare's Lord Chamberlain's Men performed the plays. Theatres. In this era, many of the first permanent theatres were built. Rich and the poor attended the same performances for the first time, but the rich sat in covered galleries and the poor stood in the pit, often heckling those on stage. The stage was decorated with scenery, and the roof, which was called the heavens, housed ropes and pulleys for dramatic entrances. So it was a theatre for all. It was so popular because it was affordable, the rich and the poor could go, and it was exciting to watch, and it was a social occasion. Many plays carried political messages and hidden critiques of the ruling classes. The Globe was built in the city of Southwark, as the city of London was opposed to the construction of theatres. They were said to encourage crime and create disruption. Opposition. Some people opposed the theatre. Puritans believed that the theatre distracted people from prayer, or even thinking it's sinful. Others believed that large crowds could lead to the spread of disease. So people were in close contact with each other, which means disease is more likely to spread. They also thought that theatres could be dangerous, as many members of the audience were drunk and crimes committed. They're probably thinking about the poor people standing up at this point. So, which of the following about Elizabethan actors are correct? We've got to switch the toggles around. Theatre troupes, such as Shakespeare's Lord Chamberlain's Men, performed the plays. That's correct. Actors such as Richard Burbage were particularly famous. Nope, it was Richard Burbage. Acting was an all-inclusive profession. That is not correct. It was males only. Females weren't allowed. So opposition to the theatre. Puritans believed the theatre distracted people from prayer and they thought it was sinful. Others believed that large crowds could lead to the spread of infection, or maybe, let's say, disease, another word for it. Yeah, spread of disease. Theatres, they thought theatres could be dangerous, as many members of the audience were drunk and crimes were committed. So there were other very different leisure activities for the nobility at court, so where the royal family was, and most of the people in society. For the nobility, about 1,000 people who attended the royal court took part in hunting, fencing, and tennis. These sports were very expensive and needed leisure time because you had to have dogs for hunting, the horses for hunting, you had to be trained in fencing, have tennis courts. So most people in society couldn't do this. For most people, they would work Monday to Saturday, and the very religious society went to church on Sunday. Feasts, jousts, bowls, archery, and dice were popular pastimes. Football. Football was popular, as it is today, and different villages sometimes played each other, but poor people didn't have much leisure time. So there was no limit on the number of players, and this meant that there was often violence during a football match. So imagine, you've got the whole village playing sometimes, and sometimes you don't have any people at all. Probably didn't have referees either. So, which of the following about Elizabethan football are correct? Poor people didn't have much time for leisure. There was no limit of number of players, and different villages played each other. So popular pastimes for ordinary people. So we had bowls, we had dice, oh that's already written. Football isn't on this one. Let's have a look what we've got. We've got archery and we've also got feasts. Who doesn't like a good feast? Education, literacy, which is the ability to read and write, grew in Elizabeth's long reign. Children were taught about behaviour and religion at home, and when they were 6, they went to Sunday school. Rich children may have learned with the help of a private tutor, and poor children would have been trained in housekeeping and basic manual labour, so there was a big divide there. Petty schools, which was 5 to 7 years old, they taught reading, writing and maths. There was no official curriculum, and most schools didn't have any resources. And there were no classes or year groups. Students started at age 6, they became literate, read and write, and then they left. So not very long. And these were often run by wealthy people or local priests. Grammar schools. These were for upper class children from 7 to 14. Lessons here are about religion, Latin, Greek, and maths. They often used horn books, which were very cheap ways to teach children to read and write. The best students, which were usually male, went to Cambridge and Oxford, which were the only universities in England. And all studies at Oxbridge were in Latin. So again, it was very prohibitive. Not many people could do this. Yeah, basically, if you were male and you could speak Latin. Continue. Which of the following about early age school children are correct? Age 6 children went to Sunday school, and poor children were trained in housekeeping and manual labour. Rich children had private tutors. So what was used to teach children to read and write? This was called the horn books. Violence in football. So we've got a bit of a scary image here. There was no limit to the number of players, which meant there was often violence during matches. So we've got some just images of violence during matches here. Not very nice. So which of the following are correct about the Elizabethan theatre? The roof was the heavens, correct. Theatre was affordable for all, correct. Most plays carried political messages and hidden critiques of the ruling class, correct. So sports of the nobility, they liked hunting, they liked tennis, and they liked fencing. What happened to literacy under Elizabeth? Increased? It did. There we go. So we've completed the level.